Welcome to the Dedicated Show. My name is Kate Stashney, and I will be your host for the Dedicated Show. I'm the founder of Dedicated, and today we are going to talk about how it all starts with data governance. I know we have some really interesting things that companies are trying to accomplish in the realm of data and AI and generative AI and machine learning, but you can't really do that without data, and you can't do this without proper data governance in place, data quality. And I'm actually super excited to tell you who our speaker is for today. Merrill Albert, a data advisor at Merrill Albert Consulting, is going to join us to talk about how and why it all starts with data governance. Before I bring her up on stage, I want to also tell you that she wrote a really cool book. It's actually a really fun book. It's called Crimes Against Data, 101 True Crime Stories of People Abusing and Misusing Data. The more I read the book, I probably read about 80% of the book. I did skip around, Merrill. I know you're backstage. I'll bring you on in just a second. But I absolutely love the way it's written. It's in a very easy to read and fun little bite-sized moments of when people messed up with data. I was telling Merrill earlier that I created my own data crime earlier this week when I was scheduling this live show. And instead of 12 p.m. Eastern, I put 12 a.m. Eastern. And George Fierkin had to let me know that I've scheduled a show for midnight. And he's like, did you mean to do that? And I was like, no, thank you. So then I went and corrected my own data crime. If you're joining us live, just a reminder that there's a place for you to ask questions, leave comments. If you want to ask a question to me or to Merrill, please go ahead and drop that in the chat on either LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring Merrill up on our stage here. Welcome to the Dedicated Show.
Hey.
Hey.
Well, and that data crime you said you committed, I think that's so funny because how many of us have been trying to set up a meeting and we Google, is it 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. if I want to schedule something at noon? And how about we just not schedule something at noon? We'll just make it for 11:30 rather than try to figure it out. So yeah, I feel that.
Yes. And I mean, this is one of my data crimes. I've committed so many, and we don't have time to cover all of them. But I know in your book, you have so many great examples of COVID data, the Olympic Games, your name. Oh my God, so many examples.
Name, yeah.
I need to know what's happening with your name and your address. Apparently, there are just so many issues with that. But before we get into,
I don't know what's so difficult.
Yeah, I know you have a simple name. Like my name, it's like, especially before I changed it to Kate, I used to have 3 very difficult names to pronounce and to spell. So I always expected typos, and I still expect typos on my last name, and I still see them. But your name, I don't see the excuse. I'm not sure why.
Well, my current thing with the post office is they're giving me a piece of mail that's not addressed to me or my address. It's the same street name, it's a similar last name, but clearly not a match. I mean, the house number doesn't even exist on my street. So I think they're just thinking, oh, she'll figure it out.
Yeah, they just don't care. And I feel like from your book, what I'm gathering is you very much try to figure it out. I feel like if I get a piece of mail,
I was Googling yesterday trying to find this person.
You really care. But when I get mail that's not for me, especially if it's like spam or something, I just toss it. If it's something that's important and I know where to bring it,
yeah, and this looked like a financial statement.
Okay, so
But I also did the same thing one time. It looked like it was like a personal Valentine card for someone. Aww. It's like, oh, I'll try to find her.
Well, you're very sweet.
And I did.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
Yeah. Someone messaged me and said, oh, I know her.
Oh, okay, good.
So we got it to her.
You maybe saved the relationship then.
That's right.
So Merrill, for those who are not familiar with you, why don't you take a couple of minutes, tell everybody what it is that you do, talk about Merrill Albert Data Consulting, and talk about your book.
Yeah. So my whole career has been working in data. It truly has. And my focus really is data governance. I prefer data governance just because I think it pulls all of working with data together. So that's what I enjoy doing. Currently working independent, and sometimes you have to give it a name. And so I came up with Merrill Albert Data Consulting. mad consulting. Well, doesn't mad consulting work well with crimes against data? So I think it's actually a really good fit. But just to understand my background a little bit, for me, getting into data started with education, and then it was a little bit organic after that. I have a Bachelor of Math degree, and I usually need to explain that because people think they heard something else. I do not have a Bachelor of Arts. I do not have a Bachelor of Science. I have a Bachelor of Math. There's one place in the world where you can get it. and so with that degree, I'm already quite specialized. That's where I learned things like data modeling, good data design, and the world had not yet invented terms like data governance or master data. But when you're working with data and you don't have those tools like that, you don't even have those concepts, you really have to figure it out. And it just kind of made sense. You're getting customer data coming in from 5 different places. You have to reconcile it or you're going to have problems. And, it was just natural. And, you're talking to business people. Everyone has a different idea of what should be done with the data. They all have their different rules. And you don't really realize you're actually building this concept of a data governance organization, getting, collaborative, people together to talk about and make decisions. And, later when data governance came along, it's like, okay, so what's the big deal here? It's like, okay, I guess we'll formalize it now.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to just go back for a second. So you decided you wanted a bachelor's in math, and I want to ask why. Not many people that I know. I guess I don't know anyone else that has a bachelor's in math.
You probably don't.
Tell us more about that part.
Well, so I live in the US now, but I'm Canadian.
Okay.
So if you're from Canada, particularly if you're from Ontario, you definitely know of University of Waterloo and the Bachelor of Math program. I will say in high school, I was good in, all subjects really. Math, I particularly enjoyed, and it seemed like a foregone conclusion that I was going to go to Waterloo for math. A lot of the math teachers at high school came out of Waterloo as well.
Okay.
So there was probably that influence. But I didn't go there saying, this is exactly what I'm going to do with my life. Like some people know, okay, I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be, a veterinarian or something like that. Like I didn't have that. I just knew that, whatever I was doing, it was coming from my mind. I wasn't going to be, a sports star or something like that. It was, yeah. So I just knew. I had the confidence that I was going to figure it out.
So you weren't just sitting around saying, I'm going to get into data governance later in life, right? I don't think I know anyone who does that either.
Yeah. No, but I will say, in the program, I learned things like data modeling, which is a good way to learn it because it's not coming from a vendor class that you go to for a week and learn, their view of how it's done and what it means. So kind of learning that tool agnostic point. And I enjoyed it. I got a summer job doing data modeling.
Nice.
Now, I mean, at that point, you are a summer student, so you're doing more of the using the tool while, someone else is doing more of the work. But I actually worked with someone who really valued my opinion. So even though I wasn't the one, talking to the business people all the time, he at least included me and it's like, well, what do you think? Kind of tossing ideas around, and I just really enjoyed it.
I had Scott Clendaniel on the show yesterday, and he shared a similar story, but sort of backwards, where he had someone working with him, a younger female intern or something, and he also gave her an opportunity to sort of like involve her a bit more than they were expected to be involved, and that set her on a trajectory of a successful data career. So I think there's something there's a thread here that you guys have in common, where it sometimes is a little gesture of like, hey, Merrill, what do you think? And you're like, whoa, I'm smart enough to know this. And
Right.
you just sort of get there and advance your
Yeah,
career as
and you're
well.
solving these problems, and it's, it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're here to talk about how it all starts with data governance. And I think we need to start with what exactly is data governance? Some people think data governance, they think policies, procedures, data quality, things breaking down with the, if you don't have something like data governance in place, how would you define data governance?
When I talk about data governance, I say it's about the decision rights over the data.
Okay.
And maybe it's because of different places where I've worked, but I've really learned to kind of compartmentalize data governance. So many times I hear people talk about data governance and their explanation is data quality, or their explanation is metadata. And it's like, no, those are two different things. You can think of data management consisting of multiple data disciplines. One of them is data governance, one of them is metadata, one of them is data quality. Those are different things. So if you just stick to, I say, blinders on, what is data governance? It's all about the decision rights. And if we think about the three things that act on data: people, process, and technology. I always say it's people, process, and technology in that order. People come first, and people is data governance.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say there's a comment here from Thomas that says trust, transparency, and explainability, and that governance is the key for going forward, especially for businesses. I think the word trust here, especially, hit home for me because data governance, without proper data governance, the business has no trust in the data, right? Because well, there's no governance. It's not governed. It's rampant. It's gone wild, and we don't know if it's accurate. What are your thoughts on building trust with proper data governance?
So when I'm building, and I usually just refer to it as a data governance organization,
Okay.
these are people who are still doing their regular jobs, but they have to be thinking about data as well. So you've got representation across the company, however you're structured. If you've got a sales department, who's representing data from sales, who's representing it from marketing, however you're
Mm-hmm.
structured. And that's key because, the other thing I say a lot: business-led, technology supported. So who from the business are you involving? And I think when you've got that involvement, you're developing that trust because they know that they're a part of identifying what the rules are, how we're going to treat this data, as opposed to people who think that data is a technical function. It's like, oh, we don't know what happens in that IT department that's, in the basement.
In the cold, dark basement.
That's right. Are they always in the basement? It's just not fair.
What are you guys doing in there?
But they think that I sometimes think that there's a mix up between who knows the business rules about the data and who actually maintains the data. So I think sometimes there's that misunderstanding. It's like, well, just because they're managing what's happening in the databases, they're keeping things running, data's going in, data's going out, reports are coming out. They think that, oh, IT must be responsible. And it's like, no, the business rules. Maybe you don't realize you know them, but we can pull them out of you.
Yes. With time, right? And I think that's probably one of the biggest struggles in implementing a data governance organization, like you said, is that maybe miscommunication, maybe not speaking the same language between the IT or data governance team and the business. How can we work on bridging that gap and sort of getting them to talk to each other, wanting to talk to each other, not just making them, but actually wanting to talk to each other?
Well, I think when you're developing this data governance organization, you've got this collaboration that you're developing between business people and IT people.
Mm-hmm.
And they start to realize it's like, okay, I don't know exactly what that other group does. And I don't necessarily have to know everything about it, but I have to respect that I have to share what I'm doing with them. And I'm going to trust that, they heard me correctly. Because, if you just leave it up to IT, why would you expect that IT understands all the business rules? They shouldn't have to understand that. And they should be able to speak up as well if they say, well, hey, you didn't give us this information. How do you expect us to do that? And, so often we know, business people are not technical people.
Yeah.
So I think that side people are pretty clear on. It's the other side, like why are we trying to leave this up to IT?
Yeah, and why do you think so many companies struggle with this? Because everyone always says, "Oh, there are just issues. We have data governance issues," and the data team is like, "Oh, they don't care about data quality, but we want to work on it." Do you think the business is just not understanding the importance of data quality? Because logically, you would think that if they're making decisions based on that data, they would want good data. But we're still hearing about the fact that it's such an issue. I'm always perplexed. Why can't the two just come together with an understanding? It's like sort of you're on a boat, and if one drowns, you're drowning with them. And then if the other one drowns, they're also drowning with you. So I'm wondering what other causes might there be for making data governance effective implementation, so difficult?
Well, I think, and I'm looking at it kind of the way you just said it.
Yeah.
Sometimes people do develop this data team,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't typically do. But, a lot of times if you develop a data team, they're just as bad as saying, we're just going to give it all to IT, because you've got this isolated group that you don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But if you develop it more as a business-led organization, where you've got people, they're still doing their regular marketing job, their regular sales job, but they've got a role to play in data, they're starting to see things firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not, okay, data quality problems, I'm just going to tell the data team, or I'm going to tell IT. They're hearing those problems firsthand. They're a part of what the solution is. And then sometimes too, it's you think there's a problem. You don't really know if there's a problem. You don't have any facts on it.
Yeah.
So I've had some people say, oh, we've got terrible data quality. And I mean, I'm only hearing it maybe from one or two people. And then when you start investigating, it's like, no, it's not really that bad. It's like, just, simmer down. And then other times people are afraid to use the data thinking, oh, it must be bad because doesn't everyone have bad data? And if you're able to prove to them, well, hey, we don't really have the problems that you think we have, then
Right.
that helps increase the confidence. So it's just, it's the rumor mill going, let's see what the facts are.
Oh, I've been there. Oh, this report was off by a decimal point, and now nobody trusts that entire report that took months to put together.
Yeah, ever again for the next 5 years, we're not going to trust that report.
Exactly. And it might have been an issue, that wasn't even the data team's fault, but
right.
So you said business led, and I had a follow-up question with that. So if you want the data governance initiatives to be business led, do you think that IT or the data team or the tech team still plays a role in being the initiator of some of these activities? Like maybe the business just doesn't know that the data could be better or that there is a way to fix data quality. Do you think the data team is responsible for going to the business and asking the right questions? Like, hey, I noticed you're using this report 50 times a day. Can we make it better? Can we make it faster? Or can we improve on the quality somehow? Sort of getting that conversation going. Who's responsible? I think I know the answer for starting that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can, come a little bit from both sides.
That's
When
what I was
I
thinking.
develop a data governance organization, the key person to me is who is leading this. So some sort of data governance lead type person. And they're also kind of a translator between business and IT, kind of bringing everyone together. So if you've got someone in place who truly understands data governance, understands data, then they're able to keep this moving. Because even though I say business-led and IT supported, it's not like I'm saying, oh, let's put, the sales manager from, the West Coast region in charge of data governance.
Right, and I
You still
understood
want
that.
some sort of data governance person managing it. But if you've got an organization like that, then you can say IT plays an operational role.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people are trying to understand, do we have a data problem or not? And, they can talk to someone in IT and say, can you pull some of this data so we can, really kind of examine it? Or, IT as well, from their regular operations, are they seeing that, people are always downloading certain data into Excel spreadsheets? Maybe there's a need for this.
Yes, nowadays you can see what people are doing with data in terms of, like you said, if are they downloading it or are they using specific reports, sort of using those as triggers to go and explore and see if there is a problem, right?
Right.
Like if a patient keeps coming in with shoulder pain, and after the third week of complaining about shoulder pain, you might want to look into it and say, okay, what's actually going on there?
Right, exactly.
All right. So in preparation for a talk, I was just scrolling through your content, your website, and I came across an article that I thought was really interesting. It was titled "Data is Not Laundry," and you provided an analogy of data cleaning, and washing your towels. So I want you to talk a bit about that because I love that example.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it originally came from. I do know that it's older because I didn't want to, initially put something out right after I had attended a webinar where someone had said it. So I don't remember where it exactly came from, but they were trying to use this analogy that data was like the laundry and you need to clean your laundry, just like you need to clean your data. And I'm thinking, not really, because when I've got a data problem, I want to fix the root cause of that problem so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So if I've got, a lot of times people have like a data quality dashboard and they've got a ton of things on this dashboard. If they can fix some of those problems, why did it occur? Did it occur because someone's entering bad data or a vendor is sending bad data or we've got some bad calculation somewhere? If you can fix that problem, you've solved it. You're not going to see that on your dashboard again.
But then you have no job security, right?
Right, exactly. But if you take the approach of, oh yeah, the data's bad, I'm going to clean it by just going in and typing over it.
Yeah, if you're
Then
not fixing
you
the
haven't
root.
really solved the reason why it happened, and it's going to keep showing up on that dashboard. And so when I think about the laundry analogy, I'm going to clean my towels on a regular basis. I'm going to keep cleaning my towels.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not going to keep cleaning my data, just solve that root cause for why it happened.
Absolutely. I love that explanation. Okay, so for companies that are tuning in, if somebody's working at a company and let's assume that their data governance organization, or maybe it doesn't even exist, is not in a good state right now. And that's the broad assumption for most organizations that I speak to or hear about, is that they've all got problems, mostly because they didn't start things the right way to begin with, because they were like, oh, well, we're small, we'll do it this way for now, and eventually we'll do it the right way. And I'm very guilty of doing the same thing and sort of kicking myself later where I have to clean up a whole mess of things, where I could have just started the right way. But what advice would you have for anyone listening? Where do they start with the cleanup process?
So one of the things that I think is difficult about data governance is there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
Some of it's good, some of it's bad. And it's just really overwhelming. So if you're not doing anything with data governance, or you're trying to figure out like, why is our data governance not working for us? It can be hard to go through all that. So I hate saying it because it sounds self-serving, but I do think sometimes you just need a consultant to come in and help you, kind of sort through what your problem is. So if you don't have any data governance, you can get that established. If you are having problems, then someone can kind of come in and objectively say, here's what's going on. Here's what we can salvage.
Okay.
Here's what you need to fix. But I think a lot of times when I see someone say, we've got data governance, we're having problems, it's generally because they built this isolated team and they just don't have involvement from business.
Got
That's
it.
usually the biggest issue.
So hire Merrill Albert Data Consulting.
Exactly. Get
Merrill will
mad.
figure it out, and they should put you in a book because
That's
you're
right.
like,
That's right. That's right. But actually, one thing that's good about the book is, it is fun to read, but it also points out some really good stories, some that, companies can read and say, oh yeah, that happened to us. That's why it happened. That's what we need to do to solve that problem. And sometimes you need to raise those issues to get people to really understand, we are actually having a problem with our data.
It's a very relatable book.
And I should get some water here.
Oh, ooh, excuse me. Look at that. That's a nice looking mug. Where'd you get that?
Well, it was just such a good image, so I had it printed on mugs.
Look, it matches my book. My goodness. There we go. I love it. So Merrill, let's touch on one last thing here before we wrap, and it is AI. I'm assuming you've heard of it.
I've heard the letters.
Yeah, I've heard the letters probably multiple times a day. So I wanted to know sort of your thoughts on the future of data governance in general, and maybe add what you think the impact is from this big influx of AI, generative AI, all things AI, and how that impacts data governance.
Yeah, so AI, I think the two things. I think AI is a real thing, but also I think a lot of people use it as a buzzword, and it's no different from what they've been doing all along. Because sometimes, like one example is I went out for lunch one day this week, and I could go up to the cashier and I could order a sandwich. If I haven't ordered a drink or a dessert, cashier's probably going to ask me, trying to sell those things to me.
Right.
That's what they've been trained to do. I could also walk up to, the kiosk that they now have, order my sandwich. If I have not ordered my drink or a dessert, it's going to ask me if I want that. And some people are calling that AI. I would say all you've done is just program the rules that you've already given to your cashiers.
Yeah.
So it's just, you're understanding your rules and you know how to program.
Yeah, that's true. I actually think it'd be more effective if the real human is asking, hey, did you want to drink with that? Because then you're sort of like, oh yeah, I guess I do. Because I don't know. I feel like more pressure to order a drink if somebody's asking me or if an app is asking me. I'm not sure why. That could be an individualistic preference, or not sure.
So I think if you look at it that way, if it's not really learning, it's just following whatever rules it's been given, then it's just, really all about data governance, how we got the right rules.
Mm-hmm. And do you think the fact that more companies are trying to do AI or implement AI, do you think that there's more of a lens or focus on data governance and having the right data quality and the right data to begin with?
Well, I think there should be. I don't know if everyone necessarily realizes it yet. And I think that's one of the issues with data governance. I think people don't necessarily understand it. They jump over it to the next big thing. And it's always something. It's like, let's get some good reports. It's like, oh, well, we gave it bad data. And it's like, oh, now analytics is a big thing. Oh, that's what we need. No, you're still giving it the same bad data. And then it's like AI. Oh, yeah, that'll be it. No, it's still the same data. You at some point have to say, it's just not going to work going to the next bright shiny object every single time. We have to address the data issue. And I think what's going to happen with AI is people are going to start seeing, if AI does something, how is it being held accountable? And if the accountability is based on the rules you gave it, what did you do with those rules? Who created them? Where did you document them? Can you retrieve them? we're talking about, similar governance concepts.
Yeah, you probably get AI to document its own rules. That's the next step.
Right. And is it going to do that correctly?
Probably not, no. And I think we probably need something really big and bad, unfortunately, to happen to wake up some of the companies. Because I think when we have a major like cybersecurity threat, that's when all the companies are like, oh, okay, we really got to look at this and make sure that we're protected, that this doesn't happen to us. And I do think something big will happen. I'm sure that it's happening already, but something
Right.
bigger that will sort of scare more companies into shifting their focus onto the actual data and the data quality and the data governance before they keep trying to skip those steps.
Yeah.
Merrill, this has been such a pleasure. Last thing I always ask my guests is where can they go to follow you, to learn more? I know you're working on a second book, so tell us about that, and where is there a wait list? Like, where can people actually go to learn more?
So I'm working on a second book, and it's actually the first book I started writing. But crimes against data just seemed to take on a life of its own. So I took the time to get that book out. So I've come back to the second book. I've been working on it, finally got around to, sharing the table of contents so far with the publisher. And, he'd already said he was interested, but, I wanted to make sure he knew where it was really going. And he said, yeah, we're good.
And can the viewers know where is it going?
So basically it's, I'm trying not to make it a textbook, but it's more article based. So there's a lot of articles on data management, data governance, metadata, data quality. So it's not exactly a step-by-step, do this, do that, and then do this other thing. But, here are the things you need to think about with data governance. Here's why data governance is wrong. Here's what you should never have done in the first place. So stories like that.
Okay, very interesting. And Technics Pub, is that where people can learn?
Technics Pub, which is right on the back. Or, of course, Amazon.
Yes. And they can pick up this book on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just, you can search on crimes against data. You can search on my name. If you go to LinkedIn, I've got it in my profile.
And for your awesome consulting services that can fix everyone's data governance issues, where can people contact you to get in touch with that?
Just get me through LinkedIn. That's a good catch-all to reach me.
Yeah, if they spell your name right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is the first test. If you pass the first test, you come close to qualifying.
Yes, awesome. Well, Merrill, thank you so much for being on the Datacated show. I have learned a great deal more about data governance than I knew before. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here. And thanks for the audience who joined us as well. Everyone, we'll see you online. Stay datacated and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Kate.
My mug actually says, ask me about my book, while yours
is
your book. So I love that. There you go. Cheers. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.